Hello again, everyone. This is Joe Hentges with Beyond the Chart, and in this technical analysis of the stock market video, I'm going to take a look at the market action here for the last week and then check in on our key ETFs and three stocks today: Goldman Sachs, Tesla, and then whatever happened to Twitter. So stay tuned. All right, let's start off. You can see the S&P was up 12.2 on Friday, and we have this little head and shoulders pattern in here. It had broken down through that on Wednesday, a little bit more on Thursday, closed right at it, but never really got a solid close down below it. Still closed underneath the 10 in here, so it seems to be riding below the 10-day moving average. The blue line's the 10 exponential, the blue-gray is the 21 simple, and the red is the 55 simple. And then the next thing we'll take a look at is the Russell 2000. The Russell 2000 was one of the stronger ones along with the NASDAQ on Friday, so it bounced back above the 10, just like it did here and here. The next day it pulled back down, so we'll see whether or not we get that kind of continuation out of this. On a weekly basis, the S&P, you can see it's kind of clustering in a little tight in here. It looks like it's trying to come down, but we still need to get it closing below the 10 to get it rounding over to the downside. And on the Russell 2000, after 3 weeks down in a row, we had an up week, and it was up 9.8 points for the week. So it's a similar type picture in terms of the pattern that's happening on the Russell 2000. I still think the trend is still to the downside on all of these, a little more dramatic on the Russell and the New York Composite, which I'm not talking about today, but same type picture. The VIX. The VIX pulled back down 1.13, closing at 15.2. Still right at the 10-day exponential moving average. You can see we had a nice move up in here, broke through this neckline, I'll call it, because it literally was a mirror image of the S&P 500 and a reverse mirror image, I guess. And so I saw in here is that every prior low was held. Okay, so you had a higher low every day until Friday. So you've got a little one-day pullback, and you're going to get that on these little pullbacks and corrections like that. You get a little sequence going, and you get a one-day pullback, and then you get continued movement. So the fact that this stopped right here at the 10, I think is a good sign. We're just going to need to see, I'd like to see the high of Friday broken and resuming the uptrend for the bearish scenario, which is exactly what I think is going on. Let's take a look at the semiconductors. The semiconductors popped back in here. Pretty good little counter trend move. They were basically up all week. And this is a daily chart. When you look at the weekly chart, it looks like a big one week move. And look how many weeks it had been down. One up here, I guess. This was a little up week. 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks in a row. You're going to get a snapback. So the real test on this is which point's going to break first. Is it going to break this point? Or are they going to break this point? Okay, this is the high, and here's the low. And, right now, if they takes out this high, then I'm going to have to change my scenario on what's going on with the semiconductors. Home builders, similar type deal. These longer term trend lines, though, have been broken. I think, some damage has been done. And it's just, they're struggling. You get some sharp moves down, and then you get snapback pullbacks. And home builders on a weekly basis, down 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks in a row. We have an up week, and it was up 0.40. So I don't think that this is signaling a whole big, great change. It could be a little reversal bar in here, but you might have said that for, any number of things. I mean, you could look at, you never want to put a ton of weight into one bar. You want to wait to see what kind of follow through you get on it. The next one that I'm going to look at is, let me look at my list, the financials. There we go. And this is a weekly chart, so you can see how this pulled back. And again, this has been really, really tight trading in here. Let me blow that up a little bit. Really tight trading. It broke this little trend line, and it's clearer to see on the daily chart that it broke that trend line, multi-month trend line, and then it snapped back to it on Wednesday. Well, what happened on Wednesday? The Fed came out with the minutes of their FOMC meeting and said that, hey, we're a hawkish. We think there's a decent chance we're going to raise interest rates in June if everything keeps looking the way we expect, blah, blah, blah. Well, so then everybody's like, oh, the financials will benefit, the banks will benefit. So everybody bought, and then they just stalled out on Thursday, tight little continued stall on Friday. So I think it just pulled back to this little trend line and is just hugging that. And I'm looking for it to pull back down again. So what's a key financial that you look at? Goldman Sachs. So if I look at Goldman Sachs, it did exactly the same thing. It pulled back to that trend line on Wednesday. And then what did it do? It gave it all back on Thursday. And Friday, it actually closed below the low of Wednesday. So it's, pretty... I think it's reinforcing this picture that it's coming to the downside and breaking back off of that trend line, short-term trend line. On a longer-term basis, there's a ton of resistance in here. Let's see if I can zoom out. There's a ton of resistance at that point, and that, of course, is after breaking this long-term trend line. All right, the next one, of course, Goldman Sachs was in the news talking about Tesla. So let's take a look at Tesla. Tesla, Goldman Sachs is going to help them raise some money, and they were then making some estimates about where they thought Tesla was going to go. On a daily basis, I think Tesla has had a really, really strong move. I think this is the first wave of a new impulse wave up. Let me shrink it back out a little bit. Yeah. So let me just show you that. I think what we've done here is a 50% retracement of this entire move. You can see here's the 50. Right in here. And now we've gotten a couple closes above the 10. Tesla has a tendency to really like to ride the 10. And so, and a lot of stocks will when they get the move going. Okay. Just like down to the downside or to the high side. Okay. Same thing back over in here. And on a weekly basis, I think there's a real good chance that the correction, which I think it's been in, since February 2014, so for a little over 2 years, it's just been chopping sideways. I think it ended here on the week ending February 12th of this year. And when you look at like the RSI, that was the most oversold that got in that entire trading history. So I just think that there's a real good chance that this correction ended and we've got a new impulse wave going up and that we're going on to higher highs in Tesla. And let's see, the last one we're going to take a look at is Twitter. See what's going on with Twitter. At the opposite end of the spectrum, down here in the teens, is Twitter, $14.43. And on a weekly basis, you can see it's basically hugging this low, which is $13.91 and $13.90 here. So it's right in here, hugging it tight. The interesting thing about this is that there is bullish divergence showing up on RSI. It didn't confirm this move to the downside. None of the indicators confirmed it. The demand index did not go lower. DI minus did not go higher. So the selling, indication did not go higher. So this looks to me like there's a decent chance, but what we're going to need to see is we got to get some trading above the 10, get this thing start to pull up. Now, they could get a pretty good surge and close this gap. I mean, the top of this is, 1528. The low here is 1708. So that could close fairly quickly if we get another, I think this did close above the 10. We get a second close above the 10 and it breaks the 2-day high in there, and it could run and close that very quickly, and it might be on our way to a little turnaround in Twitter, but we'll have to watch and see. And then, of course, we'll be looking to see, does it break that trend line? All right, that's it for today, everyone. If you're watching this anywhere besides my website, head on over to the website. Again, apologize for the voice, and hopefully the cold will get on out of here. And everyone have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on the next video.